Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Earth School Journey. I am Umi Steph, and this is my wonderful, amazing peer guide and co-host, Uni. How are you doing, Uni?
I'm doing well today, Umi. How you doing?
I am doing good. Here we are for another study hall, another week 4 of the month. And we just keep evolving in this process, and we're just so happy to have you all back here with us, our classmates. And we're continuing in this theme of stillness. And you should know by now that if it's a study hall, we're here to talk practical, like ways to incorporate stillness into your life. And we've really had a big month this month. I feel like we've really talked about some difficult things we've had as far as getting still. We have talked about the benefits of stillness, really got into kind of what prevents us from being still, both societal and internal. And so today we're going to try to give you just as many different ways to get into stillness, and also when you have those things that start to rise up, how to, you know, um I don't want to say combat, because we're not combating anything, but to deal with it, to accept it, to allow it to be, to, let it settle back down. So I just want to start as we usually do with our study hall and ask you, Uni, how has Earth School been for you lately?
Well, being completely honest and transparent as much as I can possibly be, I will say that this month in stillness it's really taught me a lot about myself, a lot about my patterns, my relationship with stillness, which I feel like it kind of led me into like a deeper relationship with accountability with myself. A lot of things have come up in the realm of stillness that I just wasn't really aware of until I put my focus here. And so the lessons that have been coming up as a, kind of like as a byproduct of this curriculum that we've set, for ourselves and all of our classmates, it's been really, really powerful. I heard someone the other day, matter of fact, Brother Blue Pill, he talked about the month of February being about purification, and it really made me think like, wow, like stillness does kind of purify you in a sense.
Mm,
So I feel like that's what's been happening for me. I feel like there's this purification that's been happening as I've leaned into stillness this month in Earth School. And I feel really good. Like it's the end of the month, and I feel really good about the work that we've done. So I'm truly grateful, and I'm gonna flip it back over to you and ask Earth School been for you this month.
oh, yeah, it's been a very enlightening month. I definitely leaned harder into stillness. I um intentionally took more time than I normally do for stillness this month. And it's my intention to make this new amount of stillness that I have in my life the new normal for my life, so that I've raised the bar and I want to stay at that level. It's definitely stirred up things, which, I mean, I say this every month. I feel like every month that we go through whatever that is that we are studying that particular month, things come up. It gets a little rocky in certain areas. And I think what I'm really learning is not to be afraid of that. That yes, it's going to come up and you can still have stillness and peace. Um and that the stillness is a place where you can go for that peace, that they talk about in the Bible, that peace that surpasses all understanding. Oh, I can always return to stillness. And the other thing that was coming to me was it's now it just left me. It just it was there and then it went away. Um, but I'm gonna go with the flow. And I do think that I want this to be my new level of stillness and that place that I return to for that peace. Um, and it's just it's given me a boldness, I feel like, to see things coming and be able to know that I can return to that place, to return to that place of stillness. And it's empowered me to understand that not all stillness looks alike, you know, which before I think we were saying this in the beginning of the month, but in experimenting with it in different ways, I think I've been able to embody that belief a little more than I had at the beginning of the month, where it kind of felt more like, well, maybe I have trouble with stillness, so I'm saying this because I'm trying to make an excuse for myself. And I didn't want to come across that way. I don't want to make an excuse. Oh, well, I have trouble sitting still. But the more we research stillness, the more I practice stillness and we talked about it, and you know, I talked to others about it as well. I mean, as I always say, it starts to come up everywhere when we do these things, right? Everybody will have a conversation that'll go, "Oh yeah, we're talking about that on our podcast this week." And other people, have had that same conversation with me about finding more ways into stillness than just sitting on a meditation cushion. And it just allowed me to embody that, and to know that whatever it is that spirit has that works for me is okay, because it's specifically for me, you know. And I think I ended up getting around to what I wanted to say anyway, even though it left me before.
Like that. I Mhm.
So, uh as we move into the part of the show where we start to go into some of these practices, there's it stillness is it's less about doing nothing, right? And it's more about creating that inner space, that inner vision, that inner knowing, where you can land and kind of allow whatever it is that's coming up to take root and be embodied, which is exactly what I feel like happened with me this month. And in saying that, we had this conversation as we were preparing, and we always start with the same thing every single month. And we were like, do we shy away from saying the same thing every month, or does the fact that it comes up every month really mean that it needs to be said, right? In any spiritual practice, no matter what it is, your spiritual hygiene and consistency are the most important. Number one, yes. Number one, spiritual hygiene and consistency are the most important. Whatever it is you're practicing, you have to give it enough time to know that it is for you or not for you. You may come to the conclusion that it's not for you, right? Or maybe that you need a different version of that thing. But without the consistency and the dedication and daily spiritual hygiene, whatever the practice is, you're not going to know the benefits of it. You're not going to get there if you don't give it enough time, you know? So that was kind of what we talked about, because we were like, every month we put spiritual hygiene on here. Every month we put consistency on here. Well, there's a reason for that. It's necessary. You need anything you want to add about spiritual hygiene and consistency, and kind of just how this ends up being our first topic every month?
Yes, absolutely. I think that for me it's just remembering that, what maybe spiritual hygiene for me may not necessarily look like it for the next person. We all have different, I think about it like kind of, if I want to use like a metaphor, like for like a something that is easy for me is like for our face, our skin, you know what I mean? Like I may need a little more exfoliation than you may need, you know what I mean? I may
Mhm.
need little more moisturizer. I may need more hydration, or vice versa, you know? Like really not judging what someone else's spiritual hygiene looks like compared to yours, but just knowing
Mm.
what it looks like for you to be clean, for you to be clear, for your reflection to give you what it is that you are desiring, or what's going to, you know, give you that wholeness, you know. I think that's really the thing for me, because I feel like a lot of times people really get caught up in like comparison, and we got to really stop doing that. We have to focus on our own paper. Yes, we can help each other, and we can, you know what I mean, throw things and share things together, but I just want to remind everyone that, you know, what looks like, you know, spiritual hygiene for you may not look like spiritual hygiene for the next person. And that's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I think it's really important for us to note that like your spiritual hygiene, my spiritual hygiene, they don't look the same. Yes, maybe we all do need stillness, but your stillness and my stillness are not the same. And it's the same with how God speaks to you versus how God speaks to me. You know, how we get to that place of inner knowing is unique. It's as unique as each individual human on this planet. And so as we go through these different techniques and you know allies and aids and different things, take what resonates, and if it doesn't resonate, let it be. It may resonate at a different time. See, that's the thing, is we think, oh, it didn't resonate, so it's never going to be for me. It may not be for you now. you know there's been lots of times that I've tossed something to the side because it just didn't resonate with me, and then a year later that practice comes back up, and it's not that I was being foolish, it's that I didn't need that at that time. So it didn't resonate then, and then it came back when it was time. And so we have to also trust the divine timing of it all. And if you made a mistake and you threw away something you were supposed to practice, then you don't beat yourself up over it. You just add it in the mix. If you took on a practice that wasn't meant for you, you don't beat yourself over having to let it go. You just let it go and do whatever you need to replace it with, if at all. You know what I mean? So I think the first thing we wanted to go over in this study hall is the different meditation and mindfulness techniques. Uh, there is, of course, what everybody knows, and that's the meditation, right? The sitting down in lotus or in a chair and just closing your eyes and getting still. And there's so many different methods of meditation. There is the just sitting there. The one that I find is hardest for most people, particularly in the world that we live with the level of movement and noise that we have. Meditation tends to be something you grow into. Like, I don't feel like you come from being unaware, unconscious, having a spiritual awakening, and then immediately being able to meditate. I think that the people who are able to do that exist, but are fewer and far between. I don't know that that's the not a lot of people can go, just the momentum of the world of just running, 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 and then bam, I'm just supposed to stop. It's not always that simple. Um, I don't even want to go so far as to say that meditation is something to aspire to necessarily. It's just one of the tools to stillness, you know. Um, and then there's different types of meditation, but I just want to give you an opportunity to add. Is there anything you wanted to add just about the normal run of the mill meditation that everybody talks about?
Not really. I think that it's just really important to understand that there's levels to it,
Mhm.
and that, you know, you may need to really assess your relationship with meditation, and, you know, give yourself a chance. Like, you may need to give it a shot and see, like, okay, I'm able to stay focused for 30 seconds. I'm able to stay focused, or, You know what I mean? I'm able to lean into meditation for 60 seconds. I'm able to, whatever it is, you could set a timer on your phone and you can kind of like gauge from there and really understand like where you are in relation to it. And yeah, I just think that it's really good for people not to beat themselves up about it, because
Mm,
that the world that we live in doesn't really encourage that. But if you really want to meditate, all you have to do is, it's a practice. Understand that it's a practice. It's something that it's a tool. It's something that it's also like a muscle that you're gonna strengthen yourself in. So
mhm. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, that perspective. And so, another type of meditation is, there are a few that I'm going to talk about. Vipassana being one, and Vipassana meditation it's taught by Buddhist monks, and it's really watching your thoughts and not engaging with them. Um, and I have done this for short bits. I'm still trying to. They usually teach this with like these 10-day meditation retreats, and I'm trying to get one. Like I really want to go to one so that I can really see what this is all about. I feel like it's helped me in the short times that I've done it in like these 1 hour trainings or things that I've seen. And I do it when I am trying to just sit in a regular meditation. I find watching my thoughts and naming them and just letting them melt and not really engaging with them is really helped a lot. So I would like to do some further training. I'm putting it out there as kind of a, look into it, because I don't have a whole lot of experience with it, but it is something that comes up with me a lot, and I'm the first opportunity I get to go to one of these retreats, I definitely am going to do it. It's 10 days, 10 hours a day of nothing but meditation, and it's done all in silence. So it's a big ask when you're used to noise, but I'm, at a certain point in my development where I feel ready for this. So when it comes up, I believe that's something that I would take advantage of. Um, the next one is transcendental meditation. Now, transcendental meditation is this idea of repeating a mantra. Now, it is done by um, like a specific organization, and they have like a whole trademark and blah, blah, all of that. It's mantra meditation. Okay. It's mantra meditation, but done internally. Instead of speaking the chants out loud, you repeat a mantra in your head. Now, if you do the traditional transcendental meditation and you go through the training and blah, 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 there's a whole thing where they give you a mantra that's supposedly passed down through a lineage. I respect it. I appreciate it. I don't know that everybody needs to go that particular route. But if you do, if you feel called to it, I did it. I went, I paid the money. I had somebody teach me how to do it. Um, and it works to a certain extent. You have to kind of be dedicated to it like anything else. Um, but I don't want to make more of it than I feel like it is. It's mantra meditation. It's the repetition of a mantra in your mind. Um, and it it helps you to have something to focus your thoughts on when you really have a hard time focusing or letting go. Or if you have a very active mind like I do. So mantra meditation does help. What helps even more is chanting. And so I'm going to turn the chanting conversation over to my wonderful co-host Uni, because she has some thoughts and some things to share with you that I'm learning about. So I want to hear what she has to say.
yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So a lot of people are familiar with chanting, but they don't know they're familiar with chanting. You know what I mean? It is essentially the speaking or singing or repeating of words, or sounds or phrases that connect with a spiritual or some sort of like a ritualistic intent. From what I understand, chanting goes back hundreds of thousands of years. A lot of things that we see culturally in a lot of traditions come from. Chants that and like sayings that we have nowadays that we don't realize kind of like started off as chants. And um, some of the things to remember when it comes to chanting is a lot of it is about the vibration, it's about the sound, it's about the repetition, it's about your spiritual and your emotional intention. And a lot of times, like you mentioned, things coming through a lineage. It's also about that community, that connection. It's about building on what was set before you. You know what I mean? So one of the chants that I really wanted to talk about was one that I learned from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, which is Om Mani Padme Hum, and it literally means hail the jewel in the lotus. And I love that because the lotus symbol has been revered across so many cultures, so many just traditions for years, just as being that symbol that comes out of the mud and it becomes clear and clean, and it's just so beautiful. And what the purpose of the Om Mani Padme Hung is, it invokes the union of wisdom, which is the jewel, and the compassion to overcome suffering. And I wanted to kind of like talk about the realms that each phrase addresses because I feel like it's extremely important. And it reminds me of like some of the deadly sins. Now, there's only six. Realms that this mantra purifies when you speak it, or when you say it over and over. Um, and I know there's seven deadly sins, but I feel like it's really comparable. So the sound purifies pride, and it helps you to connect to the God realm. Ma purifies jealousy and envy. It helps to purify the demigod's realm. Ni purifies desire and attachment, which is the human realm. Pod purifies ignorance and prejudice, which is the animal realm. May purifies poverty and possessiveness, which is kind of like this hungry ghost realm. And hum purifies anger and hatred, which is the hell realm. And so like you can kind of see why I kind of
Mhm.
like compare it to like the seven deadly sins, because I feel like when you say this mantra over and over, it helps to what my teacher said is it helps to satisfy, you're satisfying those parts of yourself, or those parts that you may get attached to, just by saying it. So you don't have to speak it, do it, be it. You know what I mean? You're satisfying those natures that may pull onto us. And another thing, we actually practice this mantra when people cross over. So if we have a loved one who passes away, we light candles and we recite this mantra on their behalf in hopes that they will return to the light, in hopes that they will satisfy these levels of these realms that may have been attached to them. Because, it's what we got to realize, sometimes it's not always about us. Like the same way we need help here in this realm, sometimes we need help in other realms as well. And so lighting that candle, saying this mantra on our loved ones behalf, um, is said to help them cross over and get to a better place. And again, this is something that has been taught and passed down for centuries.
Mhm.
This is a lineage based system. And so, I feel like it's so powerful because, again, you're building on years and years and years of practice. And while I want to add that I think that it's okay to have your own mantra. You know what I mean? Like I know some people who have like their own sayings. Like we had Sister Finesse on, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I remembered while we were speaking to her, like different sayings that she had,
Mhm.
like push her along and to help her remember why she got started and to help her stay on her journey. And I felt like it's powerful as an individual to really anchor down and have your own mantras and your own sayings that you repeat over and over to yourself. So if maybe if the lineage based system does not resonate with you, it is powerful for you to have your own. I want to really say that because I feel like some of the people who subscribe to some of these lineage based systems will have like a level of I don't know what the word is, or like I'm better than you because I have a lineage based mantra, or if I don't have a lineage based mantra, it's not as powerful. Let me tell you something. You are powerful, and that's why it's important to
Mhm.
the things that you're thinking, pay attention to the things that you're speaking, pay attention to those things because you are powerful all on your own. So I know I said a lot, but I just had to throw that in there because I think that there's so much to be said about when it comes to, chanting and reciting a mantra.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you so much for that. I hadn't really ever worked with that mantra before, and so when you introduced it to me, I was like so excited to hear you speak on it. So thank you for sharing that. Um, there's so many mantras out there, and I love that you put forth that you can come up with your own mantra. It can be a phrase, a word. It can be a sound. It doesn't even necessarily have to make any sense to anyone. It may not even make sense to you, but it may be something that is comforting, that spirit has put on your heart, that you just say. It doesn't have to make sense. Doesn't There's nothing that has to really make sense about how you speak to God, how you get to that stillness. So I appreciate you coming up with and sharing that with us. um some of the other, just to throw some chants out there really quick, there's like the meta prayer we've talked about before, and that's may I be happy, may I be well, may I be safe, may I be peaceful and at ease. And you can do that in the you, and you can do that in the whole collective. That's just one. There's Namyoho Renge Kyo, which is what I used to be a practicing Nichiren Buddhist, that I used to really lean into and still do. I still lean into Namyoho Renge Kyo, particularly when my brain won't shut up. Because it puts me right in that space, because I have such I guess I don't want to call it muscle memory per se, but you know what I mean when I say that, right? It's like I drop in real fast when I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And there's so many else. There's the chants and the mantras that go with each chakra. You can always chant those for whatever chakra you feel that you need to balance, or even um I've done it where I just go through the different chakras from bottom to top, or from top to bottom, depending on what it feels right in that moment. So many different things that you can do with a mantra meditation. And it really is just to put you in that state of being connected, being still, not engaging with the outside world and only engaging with the inner world. And so I think it's less important what exactly the mantra is, although there are some powerful ones out there that you can work with, like you said, that are lineage based, but it's what's calling, what's trusting your inner knowing to to know which one of these mantras is meant for you to work with. If at all, it may not be your thing. Oh, so another form of meditation that I particularly love is nature. Anything nature based. For me, one of the best meditations is to be out in my garden with my hands in the dirt. When I tell you that, like, spirit just takes over me in the garden, it just like, just being in contact with the dirt, with the plants, having conversations with the plants, because yes, I'm out there in the yard talking to them out loud. having full-blown conversations with these plants and the dirt and the microorganisms and the bugs and the worms and all of that. And sometimes I'm just so in awe of how beautiful Mother Nature is that it puts me in that state of stillness without being physically still. And so, yeah, anything that has to do with nature, hugging a tree, walking barefoot, grounding, being grounded, letting Mother Earth just touch the bottom of your feet, your body, whatever, and being exposed and having that skin to earth contact is just very stilling. Anything you wanted to add about nature? Because I know you're a nature lover like I am. So
Yes, I love nature. And I think I've shared previously about some of my walking meditations and going out, walking barefoot on the grass. Even if the grass was wet, I found that wet grass, there's something about that water with the earth, and walking barefoot, it does something, you know what I mean? That's a meditation as well that I've done, that I found has been really powerful and really helped me to get still within myself, honestly.
Mhm.
um Paying attention to the birds and the different animals. I think I mentioned counting the ducks in the water, and just seeing, like, seeing what that number meant. If I see 12, maybe look up the number 12. If it's 3, look up the number 3 for the day, and just seeing if I resonate with that number, or the energy of that number that brings, that comes up. um, Paying attention to the leaves swaying in the wind and the different ways that they that they sway. Some of them, they look like they're waving hi to you, and others, it's just so many different things to pay attention to when it comes to nature. And it really brings out different um, feelings and different emotions, and it really helps you to get in alignment with the energies around us. And so, yeah, it's just everything about nature. Like, just go outside and pay attention. That's all I. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
pay. That alone is like a beautiful. Who just
Mhm.
I want to go outside right now thinking
Right.
about it.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, even just watching a sunset is a beautiful way to be still, or a sunrise, depending on if you're a morning person or a night person. You know what I mean? Catching them both. And I'm glad you mentioned the walking meditation because I really want to talk about these meditations that you can do with movement, you know. Um, there are some that walking meditation is something that I am familiar with, you know. We learned a lot about that with this walk of peace. The monks talked about walking meditation a lot because they practiced it the entire time they were doing this walk. And it's how they were able to walk 2,300 miles in snow and ice and all of this. It was in that walking meditation that they were able to do that, and just being able to walk and be present with what you're seeing and in the moment. And that's one type of moving meditation, but there are others. There's qigong, tai chi. Those are, people think of those as martial arts, but what they really are is they're meditations, that
Yoga.
yoga as well. Yes. um all of them are just different ways that have developed over generations and generations of how to be in the flow, be with the energy. And again, it's not stillness in the sense of physical stillness. And that's not what the stillness that we're speaking about is. It's an inner stillness. To me, that inner stillness correlates to a sense of peace, right? A sense of knowing, a sense of connectedness. Um, the other one, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen this, or a lot of our classmates may not be familiar with it, but the whirling dervish of the Sufis. Look it up. It's amazing to watch them. It's a dance where they spin around and around, and it really puts them in a meditative state. And while it's seen as a performance to those of us on the outside, it's really an inner spiritual practice that developed out of the Sufi religion. which I think is awesome. And I encourage people to look up. Um, and again, these are some that I don't have a whole lot of experience with. I really would like to get into Qigong, and I have access to some teachings on it. I just haven't had the space in my house to be able to watch it on the TV and actually do it in my house. So hopefully at some point I'll be able to do that and practice that as well. Um, but as far as the like moving meditations, that's really what I have. You have anything you want to add about any of these or any additional moving meditations that you're aware of? No. Okay. Um here's another one that Uni had brought up that really I hadn't thought of as a meditation until she mentioned it, and that's the reading or contemplative meditation. And I'm going to let you speak on that.
Thank you. Yes, when I was younger, I used to read a lot. Like my uncle would take us to the library like every Saturday to get books. And so that means that I would read a book or two within a week, you know. And looking back on that time of my life, and as I've gotten older and I read and things like that, I don't read as much as I used to. Like now I do more audiobooks, but I really, when this month, honestly, in stillness has really made me think about how I need to be reading again, because with audiobooks, I'm usually like doing something else. Like I'm driving,
Mhm.
I'm cleaning up. I may even be scrolling on the internet or moving around the house or whatever. But there's something about when you have to sit down and your eyes have to follow along with words on a
Mhm.
page, and your brain has to connect the words to meaning, and you know what I mean? And you got to follow along without going off somewhere else in your brain or thinking about something else or what you need to do and having to read that page over again.
Mhm.
It's a meditation. It helps you to be still. It helps your brain. Like what it does is it helps to connect your neural pathways to help you to just really strengthen your brain, And I think that growing up, there was like different sayings about reading is fundamental and how powerful and helpful reading was. And I think that in this day and age, especially like for me, I know that I find myself reading a lot of it's easier for me to read short things like posts and blogs and things like that, but reading an actual book, taking the time with a physical book and actually reading it is a meditation that people
Mhm.
don't realize. It creates a stillness within you because not only are you following along, you're creating neural pathways, you have to be patient because you don't know what's coming next. You have to, you know what I mean? Like there's so
Yeah.
much building on, and it's super powerful. And so while I haven't been reading physical books as much, I pulled because I have like a whole freaking lot. I have so many books in my house. It's ridiculous. But I've been leaning towards the audio. And this month I'm like, yeah, I pulled out a couple of books and I selected one on herbalism, and I've been reading it and really getting back into that stillness of what it means to like actually sit down and focus and read. You know,
Mhm.
is really, it's creating, like again, it's creating something within me that has been helping me to just focus again, you know what I mean? And not because I want to get out of multitasking, I want to get
Yeah.
out of having to do so many. I just want to do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's what reading has been doing for me. And I'd really encourage anyone to test your reading, test yourself with reading and see how you do, because I think it's going to show you a lot about, your attention span, your ability to kind of like delay gratification, and just all those things. It really helps you to lean into stillness.
Mm. Mm. Thank you for that. I I don't think I'd ever really thought about reading itself in that way. You know, I remember when I was really into in the Christian church, like they would talk about meditating on a scripture and like you would read the scripture and then just kind of turn it over in your mind over and over as you sat quietly. That was the only really relationship to reading that I had in meditation, and so you've really like shed a different light on it for me, and I really appreciate that. It's really good. And I wonder if some of the reason why that grounding works is that books are printed on paper, which is basically just a tree.
No, listen, I have books in my life. You don't even know. Like just holding them, walking through, the hallway. Like they were a comfort to me.
Me too.
Comfort for real. So I love that you mentioned that. I didn't even think about that.
And it just came to me as you were talking. I was like, oh, because you were talking about like running your finger over. Like, yeah, well, you're making contract with the paper. The paper is really, it's really just the tree in a different
Yeah.
form, right? And how much I love the smell of books. Oh,
Oh yeah.
don't get me started. I love me a library and the smell of old books.
Same, same.
Okay. We only have a couple more left in our list before we get into our crystals and our plant allies. A body scan meditation. If you're not familiar with that, it's really when you start at one end or the other. You either start at your feet and work your way up, or you start at the top of your head and you work your way down, and you just kind of feel what's happening there, and you notice it and you recognize it. A lot of times, if you recognize tension, it allows you to just release that tension. It's very, I find body scans to be very relaxing, particularly if you're experiencing any kind of pain. I find body scans to be very helpful. Um, so that's another type of meditation or stillness that you can practice. It's really about just being aware of what's going on, right? What's happening within the body. Um, Also breath work. And I'm going to talk about breath work and channel breathing together. Um, Uni, did you have anything you wanted to add about body scans, or if you wanted to speak to breath work at all?
I feel like I did have a thought on body scans, but no, you could go ahead. It's okay. I feel like I left it.
Yeah. Okay, no worries. If it
Mhm.
comes back to you, just share it. Breath work. Breath work was one that I have to say, I used to have a lot of trouble with breath work. Right at the beginning of kind of my spiritual awakening, breath work would make me feel like I was smothering. Like
Mhm.
they would say like focus on your breath, focus on your breathing, but I used to have a lot of anxiety, and so breathing to me felt like, especially when I paid attention to my breathing, it would feel like I was breathing in molasses, like that thick, like the air was thick like molasses. And that's the only way and it would, I think I would panic more because I would feel like I couldn't breathe. But as time has, gone on and I have more and more experience with stillness, and that my anxiety has come down quite a lot, significantly, monumentally, really. um, Breath work is one that really has helped to calm me a lot. Um, and I can't say that I am an expert on any particular type of breath work. Um, I've done some along with different videos, and I've gone to classes. I've done some psychedelic breath work. Wonderful experience, by the way. Um, I've done stuff like that, like different pranayama like classes and stuff like that. It's not that I have any particular type. I encourage everyone to explore what's out there. Take the classes if you feel called, read up on them, try the different methods. But sometimes it's just breathing, and being conscious of those breaths, counting the breaths, counting how long it takes the breath to go in and out, or intentionally, sometimes you just observe it. And then sometimes you intentionally alter the way you're breathing, either whether it be breathing through the mouth only and not through the nose, or breathing only through the nose, or in through the nose, out through the mouth. there's different benefits to each type of breathing. I don't claim to be an expert on any of them. I do know that a lot of them have been very helpful. Um, and definitely sometimes all you need is a really good deep breath. One good one that I will say that I do know is square breathing. Have you ever heard of square breathing? Yeah, that's works with anxiety a lot. And there's actually if you search the internet, you can find there's like a what do they call it? Like a GIF or a GIF, I don't know which one it is, of a shape that's like contracting and expanding, and you breathe along with that, and it's like in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, in for 4. And I believe that to be like one of the best methods to really shut anxiety down. Um, especially if you breathe very deeply in it and you fill your lungs to capacity to the bottom. I think it really helps. At least it has with me to like calm my nervous system down. Anything you want to add about breath work?
Yes, I've been, I like you have done a lot of different techniques when it comes to breath work, and um, I can't say that one is better than the other, even for me either. Like it depends on the time or the place or what I'm going through. I will say that paying attention to my breath has helped me to really embody um, myself more. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I kind of suffered a little bit from disassociation from different things that I
Mm,
went through, where I stopped breathing, you know, to kind of like hold, you know, to protect myself,
yeah.
or sometimes my, you know, my breath would quicken, or you know, I'd have to hold my breath, whatever the case may be. There's definitely, I feel like there are situations in life that can definitely alter your relationship with your breath, and
Mm,
so important to understand that, and to to sit with that, you know. Again, I like this month, you know, I've been focused on breathing into as deep in my stomach as possible, you know what I mean. I've also thought about, what's also come up for me is, from an astrological standpoint, it's kind of like a side note. My astrological placement, I'm an Aquarius moon, right? Aquarius rules the ankles, the feet. And so another thing I've been thinking about is breathing down and feeling into my feet, my ankles, like, you know what I
mm,
mean, and helping me to like really lean into that. And so I think, you know, that's something that other people may want to explore, because I feel like your moon is like your yourself on a deep emotional level. And if maybe if you breathe into that place, like you focus on whatever correspondence that has for your moon sign, that maybe you may feel a deeper connection with yourself like I did. You know,
mm.
I kind of wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you for that. I love that. Something to try. I've not something that has really ever occurred to me, so I appreciate you sharing. The last type of kind of mindfulness or meditation practice is also a breathwork practice, but it's a little deeper than that. It's called channel breathing, and when I learned this, it really helped me to connect and ground. I've been practicing it for I want to say I went to Rhythmia in 22 since 22 because that's where I learned it. And what channel breathing is, it's a combination of breath work and chakra work at the same time. And you breathe in, um, and again, it can where you start from is really up to what's resonating in that moment. If you're trying to ground, I find it really good to start with the crown, and you really start above the crown and you breathe in and you pull the breath in through the top of your head, through the crown chakra, through your third eye chakra, through your throat chakra, through your heart chakra, through your solar plexus chakra. And usually for me, by the time I've reached that, I need to exhale by the time I get to my heart chakra. So once I get to my heart chakra, I start to exhale down and exhale into the solar plexus chakra, into the sacral, into the root, and then straight down into Mother Earth, as if you are shooting that breath like a cord of light, a cord connecting you to Mother Earth and really grounding deep into Mother Earth. And then you do it in the reverse, where Mother Earth then shoots that cord back up into you and connects to you through the root chakra and your in breath, and then in through the sacral, in through, just you go the solar plexus. And again, usually by the time I get to the heart chakra, I need to breathe out. And I'll breathe out through the throat, through the third eye, and out the crown, and connect back up into the cosmos. And so it really gives you that feeling of being in both worlds, grounded in Mother Earth right here, and then also connected to, the Most High, connected to the universe, connected to all of life. And I am going to encourage people to look more into that, because we are totally running out of time and we haven't gotten to the crystals yet. This was such a great one though. There's so many different methods, and I really wanted to, we wanted to share these things with you, because don't let anybody tell you there's one way to stillness. There's not. So, in that note, let's move on to the crystals. So the crystal that I wanted to share with you is not a crystal at all. My best meditation partner when it comes to, minerals, rocks, crystals, things like that, is a boulder, a giant boulder, and just sitting on it, and the rootedness that I have felt, which is what I wanted to share as far as this is concerned. But I'm really going to turn this over to Uni, because Uni is the one who is the expert in and crystals. So I'm gonna pass it over to you so you can talk about the two that you have for us today.
I won't say I'm an expert, but I will say that, look, I'll let my teacher be the judge of that. But I do have a couple that I wanted to share, and I did bring them with me. So, in thinking about stillness and thinking about, really leaning into that, I wanted to share a couple of crystals that have helped me to be still. And one of them is black tourmaline. It is a grounding and a protective stone. It helps protect you from negative energy, and it helps shield your aura and your psychic awareness. And this is one that I have. It's a actually like a little black tourmaline dagger sort of thing here. I've actually used it in the past in meditation to kind of like, I feel like, to cut through things that I feel have affected my energetic frequency, so that
Mm.
I can sit in wholeness, so that I can sit in stillness. It helps in chaotic environments and during emotional vulnerability. It really helps you to be still. Um, it's a this is one of my favorite kind of like meditative ones, because I have felt, with my Scorpio energy, like a lot of attacks, you know what I mean, energetically and spiritually. And I feel like this talisman has helped me to kind of like protect myself, like my little dagger. And then the other one is lepidolite. This one is a purple mica crystal. It helps to balance you emotionally, calm anxiety. It helps for stress release. It helps you to let go of old patterns. It helps to regulate your emotions. It encourages self love, peaceful sleep, and spiritual growth. This is another one that is a really good one. My nails look horrible. Sorry. It is another really good one for helping you to rest in stillness and lean into stillness. It's gentle grounding. You see how
Mm.
gentle and soft that looks. It's a gentle grounding protective stone. So yeah, those are the two that I have.
Thank you for sharing those with us. And she's being very humble. She's actually had training about some of these things. I just go off of what I've researched on my own.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about the herbs and plant allies that can aid with stillness. And I went back and forth about whether or not I wanted to really talk about this in this particular, kind of public setting, but I decided to just go with it anyway. One is mushrooms, microdosing. Specifically for me, microdosing is the only way I've ever done anything like this. Um, and I will say, you have to use your own discretion, do your own research. But my experience with microdosing has been that it has definitely made my meditations much deeper. Um, it often reveals things that I wasn't really wanting to be aware of, but that I needed to be aware of. And there's different types out there, but I really have used microdosing, to really deepen my meditation practice. It's helped a lot, honestly. It's not something I do very often. It's not like a daily thing or a week, even a monthly thing. It's a when it calls to me thing, and I specifically, listen for that calling and don't lean into it as a regular practice. I think that it's something that when you have particular energy that just needs to be released, that it's really something that you can lean into. But I caution against anything drastic. I caution against becoming reliant. I caution against, just doing it out of fad or what you think. But if it calls to you, and if you've really sat with it, and you've done all the responsible things like checking with your doctor, blah blah, all the things that you're supposed to do before you try something like that, then there is there is benefits to it. I mean, there've been studies about these things, particularly I'm a veteran with PTSD, so these things have been studied around vets a lot, and that's really what gave me the permission to feel like it was okay to try. Um because I do there's a lot of social stuff around, doing these types of things. Um the medical community doesn't really agree with it a whole lot, but I wanted to really put it out there as just a possible ally, plant ally that could help with deepening meditation. I would also say that this is one of those things that you may want to wait till you have more of a relationship with stillness in and of yourself before you go there, and I think I'm going to leave it at that just for the sake of time, although I did have another that I wanted to share. We'll talk about it another time. Uni, I'm going to turn it over to you for lavender and lemon balm and whatever else comes up.
Thank you. So yes, I did want to talk about lavender for the month of stillness. I feel like lavender is a really good purifier. I remember when we were reading Sacred Woman by Queen Afua in our book in our book club, and lavender was one of the gateway herbs for the month, or teas. And a few of us noticed that we were like tired a lot that week. We were resting. We were leaning into rest a lot that week. And also during that time, I realized like there was a lot of like it there was a lot of subconscious awareness that was coming up for me during that week, that we were resting, that we were drinking lavender, that we were being still, you know what I mean? And it almost reminded me of microdosing. Like
Mm,
microdosing, it almost reminded me of that, because I feel like I was still enough that I could hear my subconscious speaking to me. You know what I mean? I felt like I was still enough that I could um I was just more aware. Lavender really it really taught me about increased awareness, and it really taught me about how kind of like comparable it is to microdosing. Like I really experienced this in real time where I was just like, oh wow, this this subconscious awareness is coming up the same way with microdosing, and it has to do with stillness.
Mm.
I feel like what microdosing does is it creates a level of it's like it creates like a container so you can be still within. Lavender, it may make you sleepy, it may make you rest, you may not move as quickly, you may not go as many places because you're really supposed to kind of like be still, or it kind of forces you to be still. It will bring up the awareness. And so I love lavender because it's so gentle, but there's just this gentle purification that happens. It helps to ease anxiety, and it really helps you to rest. Like it's feel like rest is like, and stillness and purification and awareness and subconscious awareness, like all of that, really go hand in hand. And I'll leave it at that for the herbs. We could definitely talk about lemon balm at another time, but I did kind of want to talk a little bit about the next item that we had because I think it's really important for stillness.
Okay. Is that the compulsions? And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So the next thing we have on our list is compulsions and kind of the remedies for that. And what we mean by compulsions is, when you sit down to have stillness, inevitably there's either going to be tension in a certain place, or you're going to feel fidgety. Sometimes your eyes jump. I've had that happen where all of a sudden I just get like a jump in my eye, or you may even hear ringing in your ears. I hear a lot of noise in my ears when I'm trying to meditate. Just sound like low humming and things like that. Like I think it's just because there's so much noise in the world that my ears are just looking for something to hear. And there's so many different things that can come up. I'm going to turn it over to Uni in just a second, but what I have to say about that is there's this concept in kind of Christian science and New Thought called chemicalization. And the chemicalization is really when you're trying to be still, when you're leaning into these different practices, and when you're leaning into embracing the truth, things bubble up. They bubble up, and they just do, and it's going to, because it's, if it doesn't come up, it can't come out, right? And so it bubbles up, and it bubbles up as jitteriness, it bubbles up as the twitching, it bubbles up as not being able to be still, needing to talk, needing noise, all of those things. And what chemicalization is, the idea is that it's those things just coming out. And so it's not something to combat necessarily, but something to just recognize and understand and know. It's a cleansing that's happening, and that's why it's there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing bad about it. It's just the things have to come out and come out in order for you to, you know, invite the goodness of God and the goodness of the universe in. Um, and so I'm going to turn this over to you, because Uni does have a really good list of just different ways to, because it can be uncomfortable to sit. And so you may need some of these techniques to kind of help you to deal with the chemicalization of these emotions and these beliefs. So, Uni, I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Umi. That was a really, really good description and introduction. And I kind of wanted to focus on just like specific areas of the body that this will present itself. So, like you said, with the eyes, you can have like a sense of hypervigilance where you're constantly scanning, looking for, you may be looking for trouble. Like there's a fear in there, and you should try to lean into, find the softness and the safety within yourself so that you're not constantly scanning. One thing I've been working on is, like you said, scanning within, being, scanning my own body, doing that body scanning that you mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
and really understanding that I want to be rooted within myself. I want to know versus, the environment. Am I safe within myself? And so one of the things that you can do to help you with that, one of the things that I've been working on, because I realized, like, I've heard it a lot of times in my life that I can be intense with my eyes. And even watching back some of our videos, I've been like, geez, like, am I glaring at the like, so working on having like a softer gaze. I've been, you may see that in real time from a few weeks ago, maybe to this week. I got to watch this one. I'll let y'all know next week. um, candle gazing, observing the flame really helps to soften your gaze. Um, if you have any issues with safety and power and sexuality, you may notice like your hips move or your pelvis. There's a lot of hypersexuality in this world. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's definitely an issue. We're seeing a lot of things coming out with people misusing their power, abusing others, and themselves at the same time. And so I think that, again, like we mentioned earlier, grounding, embodiment, it's okay to, you know slow dance. No one slow dances anymore. You know what I mean? No one does. There's no, you got to slow it down. Okay. If you feel a hypervigilance or a lot of energy in your pelvic and in your kind of like your sacral region, like lean into slowing down a little bit. Um, Another one, we talked about chest. I'm sorry, we talked about the breath. We talked a lot about breath work. One of the things that you can do as well is put your hand on your heart and take long sighs to help feel that sense of openness and trust and like containment within yourself. When you feel like you can't breathe, put your hand on your heart. Take a long breath, a deep breath, excuse me. Another thing, a lot of people suffer from like shoulder and neck issues. Like, I know a few people have had like thyroid issues, like a lot of people. And what I feel like is there's this hyper responsibility. Like there's this like you feel burdened by life. Like if you have shoulder and back pains and things like that, you probably have a lot on you, and you probably need to release some of those things, both literally, you know, and energetically. And you could also do shoulder rolls, and you can use like warm compresses on your shoulder, and in maybe get some massages where they really focus on the shoulder area to like release the tension. Um, Another thing is, if you feel tension, like if you're constantly have to speak, like I know some people with overactive throat chakras who don't know when to speak or when, not to speak, and so on and so forth. I feel like there is a need to be heard, a really deep need to be heard, but it's out of balance. It's understanding that it's out of balance. And I think that it's okay to express your truth with love and kindness and gentleness. But maybe you want to, we mentioned earlier when we were talking about chanting, maybe you want to hum. Maybe you want to hum. Maybe you want to, do some gentle stretching. There's other ways to express yourself if you have that need to, as far as the throat is concerned. Um, Another thing, we're talking about the hands and the fingers. Like some people just always got to be doing something, always got to be touching something. I had a coworker where I had to be like, could you not put your hands on? You know what I mean? Like you may be a touchy feely kind of person, but I think that lends itself to some level of controlling and trying to like groom, and there's like this hypervigilance there. And I think that just leaning into being more of a soothing presence, drinking tea really helps to kind of like soothe me. I feel like I've said this a million times. I don't know where I heard it from, but drinking tea is kind of like a hug in a cup. So if you feel like you need to touch or be touched, drink some tea. Try that out. Just don't touch all over me. And then and then finally, with your legs and your feet, you may have an urge to escape, or there may be like that they say fight or flight, like that urge to leave. Again, my Aquarius moon, I do that when I feel uncomfortable. I'm like, I want to leave. I don't want to be here anymore. But I've definitely been working on being more rooted. And I think I talked about in one of my walking meditations, walking really slow, so that I could um, really be rooted and centered within myself. And so I could be like fully aware of myself, you know what I mean? And not necessarily feel the urge to like run away because I felt uncomfortable, or because I had to burn this fat off, or because, it's okay to slow down. And so, yeah, I wanted to really share that because I feel like you know, we live in a world that does not encourage us to be still, and it shows up in different ways for all of us. And again, you can do your own research, and just really sit with yourself and see like where's this chemicalization, where's this compulsion coming up for you. What do you just have to do, like no matter, like when you try to be still, like what do you have the urge to do? Is it run? Is it walk? Is it move your hands? Are your shoulders like, sit with that, and let us know if you know already. Share it in the comments with us. We'd love to hear from you. Just if you're aware already of what your compulsion, or how chemicalization may show up for you. Thank
Thank you so much for that. That was really helpful. I'm going to share a an article from medium.com about chemicalization. I'll put it um in the show notes if anybody wants to read up more on that. We really are completely out of time, way over time. And we usually talk about a journal question. So I'm just going to go with one of those questions that we have, um, so that if you want to explore that, you can. And the question is, what has stillness revealed to me this month? Now that we've been practicing, deepening our stillness for a whole month, really, what has stillness revealed to you this month? Take that question into your time, of journaling and quiet, and see what you've really learned. And really, I think it helps to write it down and look at it and examine it, in that way. And so I think I'm going to leave it at that because we're already at about a minute and 13 here. I mean, a minute, an hour and 13 minutes, a minute and 13. And we covered so much ground today. This was a really great conversation. I learned so much this month and this particular study hall. Uni, anything you want to say before we go?
No, thank you all so much for joining us. We hope that you got something out of it. If I had to say anything, I'd probably say just be still and know. That's what we started off this month with.
Yes.
And I like to end it off with that as well. Be still and know.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. So this is the end of our month on stillness. Next month, I believe we're doing rituals. We're talking about rituals as we go into the spring. We're going to talk about that, and we may have some new things coming up for you in this coming month. But thank you all. We appreciate our classmates joining us. We appreciate your feedback and your input, and you just supporting us and being here with us. Thank you so much for joining us here at Earth School Journey, where each week we gather and discuss, life's curriculum, and we appreciate you all. Peace. We'll see you next time.